let's take a look at our top selections for the... Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Buer. A huge card at Woodbine on Sunday, October the 18th. Let's throw up the field for race number 9. It's the Grade 2 Nearctic Stakes. $250,000 is the purse. We're going 3/4 of a mile on the E.P. Taylor turf course. Mike, this is just a wide open race. I could go with 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree that I felt like a lot of different horses could win here. But even as I say that, Dan, I have a lot of respect for the morning line favorite in here. And I do think Silent Poet is the horse to beat in here.
Oh, Silent Poet's last 2 pure sprints, 6.5, 7, going all the way back, actually. Has he ever run a bad turf sprint? His last race was a dominant performance. And the key to this race, Mike, is the pace. And we'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And Timeform US has it a blue bar situation. And Silent Poet is a really fast horse. I don't know if City Boy, the 8, has the speed to go with Silent Poet. I think Silent Poet's just going to try to grab the bull by the horns here and go right to the front. And if it is a blue bar scenario, which favors horses on or near the early lead, you might have the best horse getting the best trip.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it too. And listen, maybe they'll go on a mission here with City Boy and try and make the front. But I sort of feel like Silent Poet might be the best speed in this race. He's a very handy horse too, Dad. I mean, if he doesn't make the lead, it's not really a problem for him. But he's pretty fast. I thought he might be on the front here.
Number 1, Reconfigure, likely will be coming from mid-pack. That's where Timeform US has him. He was second in this race last year, although I wonder if he really benefited from the yielding going that day. He hasn't really moved forward off of that race. He's equally good on synthetic and turf, but to me, he's the kind of horse that needs a little bit of pace and race luck, and he might be a notch or 2 below these from a class standpoint.
That's kind of how I looked at him too. I mean, he's very consistent, and he's a pretty nice horse in his own right. And as you mentioned, he did run pretty well in this race last year. I just feel like this is tougher. And I just feel like there's a couple of horses in here, maybe 2 or 3, that are just better than he is. Maybe the triple work out, Dan, and he's going to be a great price in here, so I don't want to argue too hard against him. But I feel like that there were other horses to take.
Konthaka was fairly promising earlier in his career as a 1-run, late-running sprinter on the dirt, and he missed a ton of time. And you got to give the connections credit. You got to give Graham Motion credit. They brought this horse off a tremendously long layoff in the Jaipur, and I thought he ran a super race. He made an early move into a fast pace. The last run was the best run, and the last run was made by a very good filly in Alexandra. He didn't have to like the going last time out at Kentucky Downs over that soft turf. I just like the fact that we see him back in the entries without another pesky layoff line. And to me, it seems like he's gotten a little bit more tactical as he's gotten older.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I'm with you. Maybe the soft turf was a problem last time, but either way, a race at Kentucky Downs, I'm just happy to, give him the benefit of the doubt for a race over there. And his Jaipur was a legitimately good race. I mean, he ran an excellent race that day. And if he runs that race on Sunday, he's going to be a handful in here.
Blind Ambition got the blinker treatment again from Mark Cassidy, and it worked out. Let's watch that optional claiming race last month up at Woodbine. He went off as the favorite in here. You see Reconfigure cruising in the orange silks, but right outside of him is Blind Ambition. And I just have a feeling Blind Ambition, just a better horse than Reconfigure. He gets away at the end. This is a pretty comfortable victory. I think he's going to have to do a little bit better as he steps up in class.
He will have to run better than that. He has faster races to get to. And I agree with your take on this race. He was just much the best in here. This was a pretty authoritative win. I thought he looked good winning that race, Dan. And, going back in his career, you have to go back a couple of years when Pletcher had him. This was a stakes quality turf sprinter. I mean, he was running in some really strong races, and he was holding his own against really good horses in fast time. I don't know what happened, but he only got 2 starts in all of last year. So obviously he had an issue, but it feels like he's back in regular racing right now. And if he takes another step forward in here, he can beat this field.
Gildsman had trips in his first couple of races in North America. The Texas Glitter was his first start off a long layoff for Brendan Walsh. He completely missed the break. He came with a good rally. They ran him at Churchill Downs. He missed the break again. Then he got steadied behind a dullard on the far turn. He tried to go in. He altered out. He altered in. He ran. And I said to myself, well, one of these days for Gildsman, I wasn't on him when he scored at 9-1 in the race we're going to show you, the Franklin Simpson. Gildsman has a kick. And if you give him a big turf course like at Kentucky Downs and at Woodbine, coincidentally, where he can maneuver his way around traffic, he's pretty good. But he does kick hard in the stretch to win this race by a neck. And Mike, the key is the pace. If the Timeform US pace projector is right and the race favors horses on or near the early lead, this horse is in some trouble.
Yeah, agreed. He does need a little bit of pace, a little something to run at in the stretch. He is pretty good. He did take a step forward last time. These are better horses, though.
Let's talk about Silent Poet, your morning line favorite at 2-1. This was an explosive victory last time out. 93 buyer, going 6.5 on the turf. And he just went right to the front in this race. And as they swing into the stretch, he's in control at 3-5. Silent Poet, very confidently ridden down towards the inside. He takes a little bit of pressure. Now he's supposed to beat these horses. These horses are of weaker quality than the ones he'll be facing on Sunday. But you just go back to his win in the Connaught Cup 3 starts back. That was a pretty dominating performance as well. Can you make a slight argument against that maybe he's a tiny bit better going a little farther than 3/4 of a mile?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. He is a horse who, by my counting, I think I got him winning the last 5 times they sprinted him on turf. He's won all of those races. I don't know. I just feel like he's the horse to be. You're right. Maybe a little bit longer, 6.5 or 7 is like right what he really wants. I'm not going to worry about 6 furlongs, especially in a race with no pace in it, Dan. When you go back to the Connaught Cup 2 back, I mean, he was matching on the lead there. They weren't going fast. He was matching on the lead with Admiralty Pier, and he turned that horse away in the stretch. Admiralty Pier would be a very short price in this race.
Lady Grace is the number 6. This is a really likable filly. She's won her last 2 starts, and look how she did it. 2 starts back, no pace, no problem. Went right to the front with her, back down the fractions, kicked on home. Last time out, plenty of pace in the Royal North Stakes. She's last early. Let's turn into the stretch of the Royal North, and Lady Grace just runs them down. She is in excellent, excellent form right now. Now, she's going to have to take on the boys, and her buyer speed figures pale in comparison with those of the main contenders. I mean, Silent Poet's popped a couple of triple-digit buyers in her career, and Lady Grace is yet to buy her 90. But you can't knock the form she's in, and she really wanted this one.
Yeah, she is in really good form. 4 of her last 6 turf sprints are wins. And in the 2 that she didn't win, I'll tell you what, she didn't have great trips either time. In particular, that race at Belmont going 7 back in June, she did not have a good trip at all in that race and didn't run as poorly as it looks. I'm not going to knock her form, Dan. She's going to be a great price in this race, but I think you're right. She's going to have to improve to beat this field.
I think the 7 Van Brugge is a very scary long shot for Brad Cox. This is a horse who made his North American debut off the layoff at Churchill Downs. He ran okay going 1 mile and a 16th against Ivar, who is now a Grade 1 stakes winner. He won the Shadwell Turf Mile earlier in the month at Keeneland. They cut him back in distance last time out, and he just got soft ground. And I think the reason he's here in North America in the first place is to get away from soft ground. I think he hated the going last time, and I'm drawing a line through the race.
Yeah, he is a very dangerous horse in this race, and it's one that I took a very long look at because just for everything that you said, his North American debut was actually a very good performance behind a really good horse, and you're just supposed to give him a pass for the last one.
Defending champion is in here, and he's 12-1 on the morning line. That City Boy was 24-1 when he won this race last year over Yielding Going. And I wonder if the connections have just had this race in mind all year long. They got a little bit of a late start with them. They brought him back in the Connaught Cup off the layoff where he probably needed the race. They tried Pink Lloyd 2 starts back. No one's beaten that horse on synthetic in Canada. And he moved forward a little bit last time out in the Vice Regent going 5/8 of a mile. Let's watch that race. I know it's a restricted stakes race, but he was sharp from the start, City Boy. He's on the outside, and he's just going to get run down late. I think this horse is kind of rounding into form. The question is, can he put enough heat on Silent Poet early? I think a good trip is coming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they decide to ride him, Dan, because they used his speed last time, and maybe they'll try to do that again. I don't know if it would be a great situation to go after Silent Poet on the lead early in here. But maybe they can still land a good spot and run a race. He doesn't win enough for me. That's why I had a tough time talking myself into him. But he's another horse who's going to be a price with at least one race that would make him tough in here.
Turn back in distance, class relief. They all make sense for the 9 Olympic runner. Listen, 2 and 3 starts back, he was in against Pink Lloyd. He ran big races both time. Again, no one's beating Pink Lloyd on a synthetic right now. In the Woodbine Mile, on paper, he was a deserved 58-1. He ran a big race. He came widest into the stretch. He actually looked at it at about the 8th pole, and I think the distance got him. He flattened out a little bit. He's turning back in distance here. The only issue is this. Pink Lloyd's had his number, but so is Silent Poet.
Yeah, Silent Poet has handled him, but it was pretty close back in June. I mean, this horse ran a good race that day. That was going 7.5. I don't know. I just feel like this horse is in the best form of his life right now. And to me, that's enough to make him a player in here.
And let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 2 Nearctic Stakes, one of 3 graded events at Woodbine on Sunday. Blind Ambition. I liked the performance last time out with the blinkers on. You made a good point before. I was a fan of his when Todd Pletcher had him in the States. He was a good turf sprinter, and maybe he's just cycling back into his good form, and he's the kind of horse that can sit in the second flight.
Yeah, I thought that he would get a good trip in this race. And he's just the kind of horse that I like, Dan. He's got the back races to be tough, and it feels like whatever went wrong, whatever kept him on the sidelines is behind him now. This is going to be his 4th start without a layoff, and he ran really well last time. That was an easy win.
I've been a sucker for Kanthaka before. Maybe he's suckering me in again, but I liked what I saw in that Jaipur. That was a really nice effort against some good horses, and I'm just going to throw the last race out. As you said many times, it's so tough to analyze those Kentucky Downs races, especially when the course comes up wet, and I think he can show at least a little bit of tactical speed here. 3, 5, 2, and 9 for Mike, 2, 9, 5, 8 for me, but Silent Poet might be the one to catch and beat in the Nearctic.